On today's show, we're honored to have one of my favorite coaches, Raphael Chillious, with us today. Thanks for being on here, Coach.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
Coach Chills, the head coach of South Kent. South Kent is a prestigious prep school. You were there one time before, and you really got that program rocking and rolling. And I know you're going to continue to get it back on track and get it back to where it needs to be. Coach Chills has also coached at the collegiate level. He's been at UConn, Washington, East Carolina, and Villanova. I was blessed to be with him for a year at East Carolina, and you're one heck of a coach, but you're even a better person. So I really appreciate you coming on here today. And obviously, everyone's going to get to know what type of person you are and what type of coach you are.
Thanks, Tyler. I appreciate you guys having me. You know how I feel about you and your family.
Sounds good. So my first question to you is, why do you coach, and what kind of fuels your fire every day?
The funny reason why I coach is from everyone where I played from childhood up through college, I used to think the coaches were being snarky. I'm like, man, you should be a coach because, I always was so curious and asked so many questions. And I used to think that was people just trying to shut me down or me trying to say they can't coach and I'm a better coach. But then as you got older, every coach is like, no, man, you really have what it takes to be a coach because you see things differently than an average player does. And for me, one of the reasons I coach is a major give back for me, right? It's paying it back. When I was little, there was coaches who took the first chance on me outside just, I was a good athlete, but they would sit and talk to me about school, and what my plans were for life. And just seeing things that they thought I was capable of as a young man outside of sports. And so the word coach for me is like the word president in my book, because coaches, I have so much esteem, so much respect for coaches and what they do, especially those who really care.
Yeah, and honestly, I've seen it firsthand with you, like how much you care about each individual person that you work with and the student athletes themselves. And it was a pleasure just to watch you the one year I was with you, just how amazing you were and how many kids loved being around you. And us coaches that was on your on staff with you, we just loved every second we were able to spend with you.
Thanks, Tyler. Well,
So
the deal is there's a saying, and my sister puts it at the bottom of every email. It's like, it doesn't matter how much you know until people know how much you care.
that's true.
And when you care, you'll know more because you'll do things necessary to know because you care, if that makes sense.
It does. Makes a lot of sense. And I know you're very faith driven. And how does your faith play impact in your coaching in your everyday life?
Well, really, my faith every morning I wake up is the first thing I do, right? I give thanks, for the opportunity to be doing what I do, and the thanks, to have breath in my lungs. But what it does for me, it gives me the opportunity every day to give myself a do better talk. No one's perfect. And as a coach, you make a lot of mistakes, whether they're little or they're big mistakes. And drawing back on my faith, what would Jesus do in these instances? That's I ask myself before. Sometimes you want to make a run at a kid because he upset you in his feelings, right? And sometimes you have to stop and say, okay, that's not the way Jesus would handle the situation. Now, do I get it right every time? Heck no. But at least I know at the end of the day, I can go back and review and evaluate my day and say, did I do things the way that I've been called to do?
That's awesome. And I know that's your number one priority in life, that and your family for sure. So going back to the basketball side of things, how would you describe your coaching style?
I always said for parents when I'm recruiting a kid, you should get a silhouette of a coach walking away. And the silhouette would be, for me, with your child, is one arm around his shoulder, give him a nice hug. And then on the bottom of the picture, you might see my foot in his rear end, meaning I'm going to love him hard, I'm going to coach him hard, and I think if you love them hard, they know that, and they'll allow you to coach them hard. And coaching hard doesn't mean coach them crazy. It's just coach them beyond what they think they could do. Take them somewhere where they never thought they could see them go as a player, see themselves go as a player. So that'd be the silhouette. Love them hard, coach them hard.
I love it. And I'm guessing that's sort of like your mission statement to your team in a way. Is that right?
It's similar, yes. And our mission statement is simple. It's be 1% better today than we were yesterday while leaving an indelible footprint in the sand. What that means, we're leaving marks for the people who come behind us. Our culture is not now. Our culture is not temporary. It's every day, right? It's like Jesus was the same today as he was yesterday, as he'll be forever. That's Hebrews, right? And
Yep.
it's the same type thing with our mission. Like, we're gonna get better today, but we're gonna leave an imprint in the sand so those who come behind us, they understand what it takes.
Sounds good. So if someone walks into the gym for the first time, if I come up to South Kent, what am I going to see from your team this
You're
year?
gonna see off the wall energy. That's what I expect from the players and the coaching staff. You're gonna see a team that plays with a lot of grit and toughness, and you're gonna see a team hopefully that plays the right way. The ball moves. Our thing here is that the player doesn't score, the ball scores. And so we really focus on ball movement, player movement. And I always tell our guys, it's a great question you asked. If someone came in here and they didn't know where they were at South Kent and you didn't have South Kent jerseys on, would they be able to say, that's South Kent right there? I know because how hard they play and how much energy they give and how much they share the ball, that's South Kent right there.
Yep. And I know I know it's your first year back, but you're going to continue to, I know people are going to say that all the time about South Kent now. So what made you go back to South Kent?
I've been coaching for a lot of years, and it's like you and I were talking off air about COVID, right? And COVID was kind of like the perfect storm, for me to really consider it. When you build something, it's not an ego thing. But when you see it's not the same way it was when you built it, I kind of always had an eye back here saying, man, if they would just do it this way, if the coach would just do this, if this person would just do that, be back. And then, I had a lot of big time players come through here would reach out to me all the time and say, Coach, South Kent, we need you back on the hillside. We need you back on the hillside. And then COVID happened and I was home more in the first 2 months of COVID than I probably was home in the last 10 years around my family, and then unfortunately at that time, my wife got sick, had breast cancer. And so I was able to make every appointment possible, and I was thinking to myself, man, if COVID wasn't going on, would my job have been allowed to, the constraints of being a college coach allow me to be every step of the process? And so at the end of the day, that wasn't the reason, but that helped with the reason. The reason why is like, I got a lot of pressure from the kids that I left footprints in the sand with saying, we need you back, Coach. So
that sort of goes into my next question of kind of like what made you get out of the college coaching ranks? Because you coached, you were one of the top assistants every year, and kind of what made you want to give up that? You sort of answered it, so I appreciate that. And if you want to go into further details.
Yeah, and to me, I wasn't looking at it as getting out of the college ranks, because the college ranks are still there. I'm still relatively young, almost 50, right? So it's still there. It's not getting out of the ranks. I was actually reading a John Feinstein book, The Back Roads of College Basketball. And there was an instance in the book, it came out twice, where one was definitely with Coach K. I think it was Les Robinson called him. He had an opportunity to get back into coaching, but it was Cliff Ellis at Coastal Carolina. Had an opportunity to get back into coaching after he'd been at Clemson and Auburn, and Coastal Carolina came up. And he was conflicted because, it's not the Power Five, you're not flying commercial, you're not doing all that. And he had a conversation with Coach K, and Coach K said two things that really stuck out to me during the time. He said, a coach is a coach. And if you're a coach, it doesn't matter where you're coaching. It matters what you're doing as a coach. And that really resonated with me. And that made it easier for me to make the decision. Hey, it's not an ego thing. I've done a lot, I think, relative to a lot of people in the business. And because you're a high school coach now it doesn't make you not a better coach or a worse coach. It is coaching is coaching. And if you can take care of your family, and there's a message for everyone, if you can take care of your family and take care of your bills and all that stuff, and you can coach at a level where you feel comfortable and you feel like you're doing the right thing, it doesn't matter. Being a coach is a coach.
That's going to hit home for a lot of people, because people always have the goal of coaching collegiately or in the NBA or whatever, but just being able to make an impact on so many kids, the way you make an impact, coaching is coaching. So that really kind of hit home with me too, right there. What are your goals for this year?
My goals for this year primarily is a huge safety goal, right? we're in COVID and we want our guys to compete. And obviously I want my guys who are scholarship worthy to get scholarships and everything. But first and foremost is I want everyone to be healthy. I'm not going to sacrifice or risk our student athletes' health because we want to play, right? And so we've been very careful about our COVID protocols here, making sure we're following them on and off the court. And then we've had scrimmage games, but we've only scrimmaged teams who have very similar, if not exact, COVID protocols as us. So number one is safety. If there was no COVID, number one was reestablish the culture. I think we're on a great path to that right now. I think if, again, that question you asked, if I didn't walk over to the gym and you walked in by yourself, I think you would tell that's our team. So we've reestablished the culture and the commitment to excellence, both on the court and off the court. I'm really proud the first quarter grades came in and we had so many guys who did outstanding, not well, outstanding. And I think that's attributed to the culture because we will not allow anyone to do any less than what we expected them. So those are the top two things. And number three is hopefully when we play, we're very competitive, win games, and people realize, they're back. That's the goal. They're back.
I love it. And you talk about being back, like South Kent being back to where they were. And you coached a numerous amount of good players. You had a lot of great players at South Kent, and you coached them, a lot of great players in college. I used to love going into your office and seeing all the jerseys that were hanging up in your office. What are some of the best players you have coached, and what are some of the lessons that you learned from players that has helped you in your daily life too?
First thing, I'm going to apologize in advance because I don't want any of those former really good players to think I don't think they're really good players, right? Because it's just so many of them, right? But from the players here on the hillside, the obvious ones are Isaiah Thomas, Andre Blatch, Darrell Wright, Jack McClinton made himself into a professional, literally went from, I recruited him at his high school to do a post-grad year here, and his high school coach said, I know you have a really good program. Why would you want Jack as a Division III player? And I believe now Jack's jersey is hanging up in the arena at the University of Miami in the Hall of Fame and was drafted by the San Antonio Spurs. I watched him turn himself into a pro, and he embraced everything that we threw in front of him. Deion Waiters, DeJounte Murray, Marquise Chris, Terrence Ross, Markel Fultz. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of the players I've been blessed to be able to coach and be around. And I think one of the first things I learned from being around guys in this environment every day was you have to be able to evaluate and compare apples to apples, not apples to oranges. What I mean, when the first year, Darrell Wright's the first kid I had come and go straight from high school to the NBA, and then Andre Blatch the next year. But we were watching, I was like, man, Darrell's lazy. Everything's so slow, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not thinking, so then that same year I go and watch Syracuse practice, and they're doing this drill going sideline to sideline. And I'm thinking to myself, Hakeem Work is so lazy. But then I'm watching, he's winning every one of them. And I was like, you know what? He's such a superior athlete. It looks like he's not working as hard, but he is. And I came back and I watched Darrell, and that's what it was. He's just such a superior athlete to everyone that would look like he was coasting. He was still beating everybody. So I learned, make sure you're comparing apples to apples, right? And then the other thing is, we all want to really coach, but don't overcoach when you got a stallion in the barn. Sometimes you got to let the stallion get out, just let him go. Especially if they're trying to win. My thing is, if you're not trying to win and the player's saying, hey, look at me, and everything they're doing is about for their benefit, it's not good, right? But when they're doing things like we had the Isaiah Thomas of the world that will bite your leg off to win a game, sometimes you got to let them go. You got to let them go. And then when you're doing that, I think what fosters with the rest of your team, players know players. Players don't lie to themselves about players. When they know the guy's the best guy and they letting him do his thing, they buy into that because they know when it's their turn, I'm gonna let them do their thing. And Jack McClinton always talks about it like, he was on that team with all those big time players, Darrell and all those guys. And we were playing in a tournament, the War on the Shore, and Jack had it going at halftime. I said, hey, we're gonna feed Jack. We're gonna feed Jack till he runs out of gas. And Darrell and everybody was all for it. And so I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned is like, when you got a horse and a stallion, sometimes you got to let him, don't make him gallop, let him run.
I love it, Coach. I love it. coaching sort of both prep basketball and college basketball, what's the main difference and what's some similarities that you see in the games?
The main difference for the most part, when you're in college, everyone in that program is a Division I player if you're Division I, right?
Yep.
You have an odd guy who may be coming in the door as a coach. You're thinking, I don't know, but if he puts the work in, he'll be solid by the time his junior, senior year comes, right? At this level, for me, because I'm allowed to recruit players, I have a pretty good idea. But then there are some guys I'm like, man, if he's here 2 years or he's here 3 years, because I just don't take post grads, I take the best players I can get, who I want to be, who are going to fit the culture, right? It doesn't matter what grade they are. It's just projecting where they're going to be. The biggest thing is teaching them how to play hard, and you were at the college level too. That's something else when the kids get to college is the number one thing for college coaches is teaching kids how to play hard. Because it's easier said than done, right? And so what I've always prided myself on is every kid who's ever left this program or the program I was prior to here, every college coach is always going to be in there ready to play. Like they may not be ready to be in the rotation, but they know how to play hard. And play hard is the biggest difference. Play hard and be physical and getting kids to understand that pass I made in high school, that might get there. In college, as a point guard, you find out quickly, oh my gosh, that's now a 6'7" guard guarding that 5'11" guard over there, and he's gonna get in that pass and get that pass if I throw it soft. So just teaching those guys how to play really hard and what works in college versus what doesn't work in high school. And sorry to be so long-winded, but the other piece is my philosophy is I train every player here, whether he's gonna be a Division III or Division I guy, like he's a pro. Because if you're gonna train him up there like a pro and to be a pro, they're gonna raise up to a level that they didn't think they can get to.
That's good to know, especially from seeing you from that year and how you coach each individual player, coach them the same, coach them like a pro. And my last question for you, Coach, is your biggest life lessons that carries over to coaching.
The biggest life lesson to me that carries over to coaching is to learn to I don't know if it's learned. If you watch people enough, you'll learn, but to be selfless. When you go into coaching again, coaches sometimes we get so caught up in running plays and they got to do our stuff just right that you got to make sure the game doesn't become about you. It's always about them. How can I make them better? When they get better, I'll be better, right? And sometimes in the coaching profession, we have it backwards where that I'm the best and I'm doing it this way. You learn so much from these kids, right? I've learned how to communicate differently with some guys than others. I know what guys can take me coaching them really hard in front of the team and what guys need me to come and sit one-on-one and coach them hard. So as a coach, when you're selfless and you learn that it's about them, it's not about you, I think you become a better coach. And that's one of the life lessons, you'll find out in life, like when you have a family, you learn how to be selfless. The way I grew up, we didn't have much. And I just remember my grandmother never locked the door to our house. And it was so many times I wake up in the morning and find a stranger sleeping on our sofa. And we didn't have much food. But if someone needed a place to stay or something to eat, her door was always open. And that's just what I've learned. Like, it's not about us. It's about how can we make the world better, leave that deep footprint that I keep talking about.
And I mean, that just speaks that you had, growing up, you said, I think it was your grandma, right, that left the door open all the time. And that's sort of like how you are. And you would let anyone sleep on your couch, no matter how much you had or how much you do have. I don't know, but I know that's the type of person you are, that you're so selfless. And being around you for that year and growing our relationship, just seeing how much you care about everyone and how much you put everyone else before yourself is truly special.
Thanks, Tyler.
So no problem. And I just want to say thanks, Coach, for coming on here today. I really appreciate it. You mean so much to me. You made a big impact in my life. And I know you're going to continue to make an impact with people who you're coaching and coming across every day.
Thanks, Tyler. Remember, just get 1% better every day, all of us.
Sounds good. Appreciate you, Coach.
Take care. Tell Rick I said hello.
I will.
All right.